What if I told you that the man who led the charge to divide this nation was once a staunch advocate for the Union and believed that this country should be whole? Hi, my name is Alec Sorto, and today I'm going to be talking to you about Jefferson Davis.
Youngest of 10 children, Jefferson Davis was born on June 3, 1808. He went to West Point and graduated in 1828 and then went on to serve under future President Zachary Taylor in the Mexican-American War.
After marrying Verena Banks Howell, who was half his age, Davis was elected into the 29th Congress under the House of Representatives, representing Woodville, Mississippi. After being nationally regarded as a war hero due to his efforts in the Battle of Buena Vista, Jefferson Davis was appointed to the Senate in 1848.
In 1853, Jefferson's close friend, Franklin Pierce, appointed him as Secretary of War for the United States. Ironically, after the controversial Dred Scott case in the summer of 1858 by the Supreme Court, on the 4th of July, Jefferson Davis delivered an anti-secessionist speech on board a ship near Boston. He urged the preservation of the Union on October 11th in Faneuil Hall, Boston, and returned to the Senate soon after. On January 21st, 1861, what Davis called the saddest day of my life, he delivered a farewell address to the United States Senate, resigned, and seceded with Mississippi, pledging allegiance to his state over his country. On February 9th, 1861, Jefferson received support from 6 of the 7 states and was seen as the champion of a slave society and embodied the values of the pioneer class, and was elected Provisional Confederate President by acclamation. He was inaugurated on February 18th, 1861.
His wife, Verena Davis, wrote that when he received word that he had been chosen as president, reading that telegram, he looked so grieved that I feared some evil had befallen our family.
Many historians sharply criticize Davis for his flawed military strategy, his selection of friends for military commands, and his neglect of the home front crisis. Until late in the war, he resisted efforts to appoint a general-in-chief, essentially handling those duties himself. After being utterly and completely surrounded by Union General Ulysses S. Grant, on April 9, 1865, near the town of Appomattox Courthouse, Virginia, Confederate General Robert E. Lee surrendered his Army of Northern Virginia to the Union, which is often marked and seen as the end of the Civil War. President Davis met with his Confederate cabinet for the last time on May 5, 1865 in Washington, Georgia, and officially dissolved the Confederate government. Youngest of 10 children.
Surprisingly, Jefferson Davis' worst moment came after the Confederate defeat. After being on the run, Jefferson Davis was finally captured by Union soldiers in his wife's clothing. Jefferson Davis attempted to hide from soldiers and from people by hiding in his wife's clothing and pretending to be a lady. This was a public relations nightmare for Jefferson Davis, as all across newspapers, all across America, he was ridiculed, clowned for dressing as a lady and even being called a lady with a beard. After awaiting trial for almost 4 years, Jefferson Davis was pardoned on February 15, 1869, as part of President Andrew Johnson's mass Christmas Day pardons, and was no longer prosecuted for his crimes against the country. After imprisonment, Davis lived the rest of his life being a staunch advocate for segregation and Jim Crow laws, and died on December 6, 1889, of acute bronchitis. He's remembered as the President of the Confederacy and as one of the worst people who has ever lived.